Be very careful of the reasons. If you're going to entrepreneurship because you're running away from the corporate work without understanding exactly what it is that you're running away from, pressure-wise, you're going to find a different kind of pressure on the entrepreneurship landscape. And you're going to have the same kind of emotional reaction to the pressure.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 7X Growth Podcast. This is episode number 16, and today we're going to be talking about the entrepreneur's edge, nurturing mental health. And with us in the studio, we have a very special guest today, no one other than a third-time recurring guest. And I think we need to get the editor to put a little segment in, because I remember in the closing of our last podcast, I closed with, "He will be back next week for the next episode." That was December 2022, and almost a year later, a week later, we finally get to sit down with Jabu Zwane again. And for us, we know him as Pastor Jabu Zwane. He has many hats, many roles, many is an influencer. So. Welcome to my co-host Christian Nyambui. I am Gerald Hubert, and our guest today is Jabu Zwane. Welcome, everyone.
Well, thank you so much for welcoming me. It's great to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Chris, are you happy to be here?
I'm happy. I have just to practice the Pastor Jabu and Jabu.
Yeah,
it's difficult to call him Jabu.
I think we start every podcast that way. It's a going discussion now. So, talking about Jabu, I just want to quickly introduce him. So, he's an entrepreneur, a keynote speaker of note. Can you say that? Is that okay to say that? Keynote speaker of note?
I think it's been overused already.
Oh, is it? Too many notes there? Okay.
Yeah, it's been said.
I'll make a note
times.
about that for next time.
Yeah, note it, please.
He's an executive coach and a facilitator in leadership, effective communication, emotional intelligence, entrepreneurship, self-mastery, mindset, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We also know him to have many leadership roles. He's a very experienced entrepreneur and leader. And he has also been traveling the world. He has facilitated workshops and talks in over 50 companies, over 10 countries, and 3 continents. Why not all 5 continents? What's stopping you from,
Time.
Oh yeah, time. Okay. So we're really excited to have you here. Thank you for coming today to the podcast on such very short notice. And we can't wait to hear what you have to bring today as we talk about mental health and entrepreneurship. I think for most people, those are 2 things that you don't really put together. It's almost like it's taboo to speak about it.
And I actually wonder why, because they are very closely linked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the nature of entrepreneurship is such that there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of struggles, there are a lot of factors that impact people's mental health, which come in abundance, packaged in entrepreneurship. And so it's, I think it's such an important topic to speak about, and I'm very glad that we are going to be talking about that, because there's a lot to cover in that.
We're going to be covering 4 basic topics. So what you can walk away with. We're going to talk about why entrepreneurs suffer from mental health issues, why we often don't want to address them, or why they are not being addressed, and then how to spot mental health issues. I think sometimes most of us, we don't even realize that we are suffering from mental health issues, and those are probably the most dangerous ones. So we'll definitely talk about that and how to deal with mental health issues. So let's get right into the talk today. Pastor Jabu, can you give us maybe just a little bit of thought around what is the role of mental health in the world of business and entrepreneurs? Why is it so important that we pay attention to it?
I mean, I think it's important to understand the impact of your mental well-being or your mental state in how you function generally as a human being. That if you're not at your top form as far as being able to concentrate, being able to make focus, you can't make good decisions. You also are not able to regulate yourself properly emotionally. Obviously, your emotions also impact your ability to make high quality decisions. And in the world of business and in the world of entrepreneurship, your ability to make high quality decisions determines the outcomes of that particular business. And so if you are obviously starting a business to generate profit, you have to make decisions that are favorable to that particular goal. That also includes being able to have good relationships with suppliers, with clients, with your colleagues, whoever you're working with, so all the stakeholders. So you can imagine if you're not in your top mental state, that your relationships get impacted, your decisions get impacted, the way that you strategize your business gets impacted. So there's so many different components that are crucial for the success of your business that are dependent on your ability to be mentally sharp. So it can never be overstated how crucial your mental state, and specifically your mental health, the well-being of your mental state, is to the success of your business.
Wow, that's interesting, because I think a lot of time we look at the external factors in terms of a business success, like the economy, your cash flow. We talk about all those success factors, but often we leave out the real internal issues, which, like you mentioned, our ability to make decisions, our relationships with other people. That's it. You don't see. I mean, these days it's a little bit better, but you don't really see people talk a lot about this. Like, oh, my business failed because my mental health deteriorated. Like, when was the last person that said that to you? We don't hear that. Oh, my business didn't work out because of the economy, because of COVID. I wonder how many businesses in COVID closed down, not because they were not doing financially well, but because the owners were not doing mentally well, or the people working there.
Yeah.
That I think because most, as a human being, most of the time we if we have to address things, most of the time look at what is coming outside. We don't want to point ourselves. No, it's my mental well-being was not good. No, it's me. It's most of the time it's the economy, it's the government, it's my colleague, and it's these employees. We don't like to point ourselves fingers. I think.
Look, I mean, the thing is this, you cannot do anything about external factors. In fact, they will remain. Politics, economy, socio-economic conditions, natural disasters, all sorts of these other factors that you have but they've been there for time immemorial. They've always been around. But along with that as well, it's also very true that there are certain people that during those times quadruple, they go 10 times, 12 times, 20 times more than what they did in the times where everything was going well, because quite a lot of people in that time cannot handle the pressure. Now, you got to think about it in this way, that it's not so much about what's happening on the outside, but taking control of what's happening on the inside. If you are mentally sharp, you are able to anticipate, you're able to see what's happening in the environment, and then you're able to come up with plans and sort of put them in place before certain things get out of hand. I wrote an article recently about the importance of changing things when they don't work. And part of the reasons why people don't change when things don't work is that, first of all, somebody's putting too much effort, too much capital, too much energy into the business they've started, and they worried more about how much they've put in more than actually what they're losing out the longer they stay.
Do you think that can, sorry to interrupt you, but do you think even in our mental condition that denial of the reality of what is deteriorating can also play a role, because you don't want to acknowledge that things are not working out? Like, I'm always the strong person, I'm the leader here, and then you don't want to acknowledge that things are not working and I need to change something. Absolutely.
Many people would think that things are not working because I am a failure, because I've done something wrong. Some people may think that things are not, I have to make things work because I've got to prove it to me that I can succeed, which is a great thing. It can help with resilience. However, but if you're not taking into consideration the objective reality within which you're operating as a business, that stubbornness can actually cost you a lot. Some people may even go as far as a petty thing, like I'm trying to prove to whoever else that told me I won't succeed that I can succeed at this particular thing. All of those factors have got absolutely nothing to do with your ability with what you need to do to succeed. We need to then orient ourselves to say, what is it that is not working? What is it that I need to do to prepare myself to become more competent in handling what's not working? So what I call the it mindset. And the it mindset removes your attention from your emotions, from anything else that has nothing to do with what's going on, to focusing on what is it that I need to do? What is it that I need to achieve? What are the skills that I need to develop? Where is it that I need to go for help? Where is it that I need to go to reposition my business if I need to move from one particular location maybe to the other? So you're constantly going, what is it that needs to be done? And so that way you remove yourself from the chaos of emotions into the clarity of logic that is informed by the actual objective factors that are impacting your business. And then from that, you're able to come up with a more objective strategic plan on how to overcome that. But unfortunately, even during COVID, some people were worried more about the legacy of their business. They were very sentimental about their businesses. Some people are very adverse. They have got a very adverse attitude towards change and resisting the change. Some people, let's talk about even as Christians, that we can use some of the belief systems as Christians, like, what, God is going to come through for me. The devil is a liar, and then in Jesus' name 20 times and hope that things are going to change. But one of the greatest gifts that God has given every single person is the ability to think and to think logically and to be able to apply your mind intelligently to change certain things. And unfortunately, we also got to be very careful of some of the already besetting belief systems in business and understand that some of those belief systems can be a hindrance when the time comes for you to change, when the time comes for you to do something.
I think I can relate to this. I think there was a time I was doing some business, but it was not working. And it was a business that had mostly to do with your mental, like your psychology and like how you handle the stress. But I had to sit and just, I think this is not working because of 1, 2, 3, 4. I had to. I was living with that business, and then every decision that I was making from that business, it was okay. I have to make good decision so that I can eat, so that I can do this. I can do this until I had to sit down, acknowledge that this is not working. It's very important that, and to stop. I say, okay, I'm going to stop this so that I have to come with a strategy. As I'm not leaving the business, but in the last podcast we did, I said one thing very important is we have to diversify our source of income so that can be a pillar to even our mental well-being. Because if you depend only in one and then you put all your emotion in that one, it can become a very big problem, because once something goes wrong, it takes out your emotion, and then once the emotion come in, that's your capacity to think. That is taken away, and you can't think. Once you can't think, you can't take any good decision. So I stopped and came out with new strategies so that I can fix first the basics. And then after fixing the basics, I can go back now to that. I was even telling someone, no, I don't want to trade. I don't want to do this, or just put more effort in this one because I don't have the capacity to deal with it right now.
Yeah.
And then that's acknowledgement can change everything.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I'm thinking about, like, can we get to the root of mental problems in the business world, in entrepreneurship? Because, like, you guys mentioned a lot of things just now. You mentioned emotions. You mentioned decisions that need to be made. You mentioned income streams. We mentioned external factors, macro factors like the economy, natural disasters, COVID, these type of things. So we understand that there is the stress of the external factors working in on us, but then, like, can we just think a little bit about that? Why do entrepreneurs struggle with, specifically entrepreneurs in business and especially business owners? Why do we struggle with mental health? Like, yes, there's stress, but everybody has stress. But is it because of the weight of the responsibilities that are facing us? Or is it, like we said, is it the protection of my baby, my legacy? Like, I built this thing and now it's like I'm worried that maybe my ego or my pride or my name, my reputation. I think, like, if we can talk a little bit about, let's drill down a little bit to think about what causes this, so that we then can talk about how do we address it from the root.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I think the main reason why we even have talks like mental pressures and stuff is because it's human. We need to understand that human being as a frame, you are a limited structure. There's certain aspects of you that are limited. And big part of that is your capacity to handle whatever. Capacity has to do with your abilities, right? So that do you have the capacity or the ability to handle what's coming onto you? In other words, how it's going to impact you specifically, whether it be the body weight, whether it be the mental pressures from the outside, from within yourself. Do you have the ability to handle the pressures? One of the ways that determines whether you can or not are the meanings you attach to things that happen to you, happen around you, happen with you, happen through you. What meanings do you attach? What meaning do you attach to the fact that you are struggling to achieve something? The moment you say, I'm struggling to achieve something because I am weak, then that automatically puts you into that victim mindset, which then it disempowers you, and then you don't look at yourself as somebody who's able to handle the situation, but more as a victim. So then the more pressures add up, like it's been happening in South Africa and in the world right now, the reason why there's literally a mental health pandemic throughout the world is because the pressures are adding up. And there is the consistent meaning that is being thrown into the public domain to say that people have no ability to handle the pressures that are coming at them.
Yeah.
And as an entrepreneur, that you are part of that environment, and that doesn't escape you. And of course, I mean, that becomes even more prevalent to you because of the money that you're using, the energy that you're using, the resources that you potentially are using, and even the opportunities that are sometimes even disappearing from within your reach as the economy changes right now with AI, as industries are disappearing faster than we can blink. I mean, all of those things are adding to the pressures. And so then within us is that if we have this way of thinking that the odds are already so far against us, then we can go into that learned helplessness, into that self-victimization mode, where then we exaggerate the external factors, and then we completely undermine our ability to come up with ways to overcome those factors. That's part of what happens with a lot of us as entrepreneurs. And the fact that most entrepreneurs are in this journey alone, that also means that there isn't, we don't often have an objective voice that can either encourage us, that can either show us to see things differently. So you are left with your own thoughts, ruminating over all the pressures that you're going through. So what meanings do you attach? That is crucial. And that is why it's important then for us as entrepreneurs to learn different ways of describing the entrepreneurial journey. Because I think there are fundamentally certain problematic descriptions of stuff that comes with the territory. You know what I mean? They come with the territory, and then you need to understand that when you walk onto the entrepreneurial landscape, there are potentially certain landmines. There are potentially certain hills and mountains that you got to climb. Along the way, there are potentially schemers and scammers, and that can take away and cheat you out of your business. So what do you have to do to prepare yourself and to orient yourself for the journey, to make sure that you are properly armored for the journey and not just running on the euphoria of excitement based on what you think you're going to achieve in 2 or 3 years, because then that makes you naive.
So I just want to chip in there. So would you say that a lack of preparation, or maybe a lack of education perhaps,
Both.
and that entrepreneurs are not being prepared mentally for the journey of entrepreneurship? Is it would you say it's just a problem in the educational system doesn't really teach you much about entrepreneurship?
Come
but
on now.
yeah, so maybe there's just a big gap there in general. But I mean, most people become entrepreneurs because they are either mentored by one, or they see it, they hear about it, they see it on TV, or they read about it in a magazine, or because they believe, like you're saying, there's some dream there. Like, I want to start my own business because, and then there's a dream attached to the end of it.
Or they are tired of their bosses.
That's possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there are many reasons, but I think most people go into entrepreneurship very naive, not knowing what they are letting themselves into.
I liked what Pastor Jabu said. The journey. I think if we have to take entrepreneurship, or entrepreneur who understand that it's a journey, and then if we see it as journey, like journey means like you are getting from one point to another one. And when you are doing that, the preparation is you have to have most of the tools that can help you to walk through that journey. And then the problem as well with the tools that are in the market, you said there's too much noise as well. There's too much books and things that do this. And then most of the time when you go to the practicality of these things, you find it like this cannot apply. This, it's not true. But everyone outside there is telling you one thing to do. And then one thing that saved me a lot in this, I used to go through a lot depression. I had a problem of sleeping. I couldn't sleep like normally, like not enough. And sometimes like thinking a lot of things and all these things that comes. But I had to make peace with every day doing what I have to do, everything. I think Pastor Jordan can acknowledge that in the way I deal with the day, I do what I have to do in the day. And I say no to more so that I can still have the capacity to come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because we might go, no, okay, hey, let's do this, and then you don't have any capacity to come back tomorrow.
That sounds like me. Let's do this.
No, it's not only you. Even ourselves. Like I was saying last night, I had a lot to do in the table. I had to do this. Me and you, I think we slept at 12. And I had to be up at 4 in the morning so that I can start the day.
Yeah.
So sometimes just to say, we do that because they tell us to work hard.
Well, I mean, look, I think let's start off with the points that he made first, and I'll come back to what you just said now. The lack of preparation and the lack of education. That is very true. Now, I heard something that was very interesting 2 days ago. I was doing keynote in Amklang, and one of the speakers got up. I think her name was Elizabeth Ming, and she's a former executive for Facebook and many different companies. And she mentioned something about 40-70 rule, and it was some kind of Asian proverb. And she said that one of these leaders, I can't remember his name, that he said, if you make a decision with less than 40% of the information, you are guessing. You're guessing. If you want to gather more than 70% of the information to make a decision, you're stalling. So somewhere in between 40 and 70%, you gather enough information for you to make a high quality decision. What that basically means is that the reality is that you're not going to be able to get all the information from the very beginning. I like to speak about this in the mindset development journey with people, that you need to understand life stages of progress. And part of the life stages, you've got the beginning, the middle, the peak, and then the dropping. In the middle of anything, it doesn't matter what you do, whether it be that you're becoming a father, or becoming an entrepreneur, or becoming whatever, you don't have enough information. So you're in the process of gathering information, and you're going to use that information to build enough so that you can be able to make decisions that you need to make. But you need to understand that it's a process of growth. And along the way, you're going to figure out what else you need to get. And it is okay not to have everything, but it's also a very bad idea not to have enough. So you need to just do about enough. The second part of that is that throughout the journey, as you begin to see the landscape far more, you need to realize, okay, there's some resources that I need to have, that I should have now. And also you realize that some things that you have shouldn't be part of the journey. They're heavy. They are slowing you down, right? Mindsets, for example, that you've got. I said this the other day about entrepreneurship. Before you start the entrepreneurship journey and after you start, understand that ego is your enemy.
Yeah.
It's not about your ego. Deal with your ego and understand that clients are the most important people. In South Africa, because of the oppression and the history we have, there's a lot of people that think certain things mean what they don't mean. That if a client demands something, they're oppressing me. If the client wants a bit more high quality and excellence, they're being oppressive, and they're making me feel small. And then I retaliate with an attitude, right? We know the story with that.
Demanding.
We know the stories with the cashiers and wherever you go. It's like, and I understand that they're under a lot of pressure. But you, in a country like South Africa, that mindset does not, you don't escape that mindset. And if you're not aware of it, it impacts the way that you deal with your clients. And then you find that you may be the best person in the game, have the best product in the game, but you're not the best person in terms of the attitude, in terms of working with, because you're not doing the necessary self-development work. And also you're not doing the necessary upskilling work that you've got to have to be successful in what you're doing. And so it is then crucial for us to understand that throughout that journey, to allow ourselves, first of all, the grace to learn, time to learn, but at the very same time also to be courageous enough to confront ourselves and say, well, there's certain things I need to fix here. I need to deal with mindset-wise, emotional trauma-wise, maybe even certain misconceptions about why I got into business. You got into business because you wanted to get rich. Well, then you're not an entrepreneur. Because entrepreneurs get into business to solve problems, and those problems are how they generate profit. So then be very careful of the reasons. If you're going to entrepreneurship because you're running away from the corporate work, without understanding exactly what it is that you're running away from, pressure-wise, you're going to find a different kind of pressure on the entrepreneurship landscape. And you're going to have the same kind of emotional reaction to the pressure. So you need to know very clearly, what is it about the corporate environment that is frustrating me, that is restricting me, other than my boss who annoys me and tells me to get up at 5 a.m, to when I go into entrepreneurship landscape, what is it that I want to achieve for myself, for the environment, for my family? What is it in money? What is it in terms of a solution? What is it in terms of impact, significance, all of those things? There's a lot to consider.
But that as well can evolve the you knowing why you are being in the...
Naturally, yeah. Naturally.
I think a lot of people go into entrepreneurship because they're running from something.
That's a mistake.
But that's already you are in a flight mentality already. Your mindset is wrong to start with, and then running from something does not lead you to the right path. It just takes you off the wrong path, which but you're still not on the right path. Or even because of fear, people might start start a business. There's also a difference between having a business and being an entrepreneur, but that's for another podcast. But like when I'm fearful of something and so I start a business, or I'm running from something and I start a business, my why is a very weak one, and it doesn't give me a guidance for the future. It just tells me not to go to the past, and so I won't have the motivation to keep me going, because sometimes as an entrepreneur you ask yourself, why am I doing this? What was I thinking? And then if your reason is not very good, then you'll not be able to grow. You won't have the motivation to push beyond the pain and the disappointment and the hardships and sometimes the bitterness of business. Yeah. And to say, okay, I need to keep going because X, Y, and Z. So it's I like what you mentioned there, that there's so many wrong mindsets that we can have, and that goes back to the expectation of entrepreneurship and also the education around it. Whose fault is it? Whose fault is it that entrepreneurs are ill prepared? Is it the government's fault? I think partially there is a problem with the educational system.
It contributes a bit.
Yeah, there's definitely that, because we're not taught about entrepreneurship at all. Like at the most when I was in high school, we had the business sciences or something like that, and you learned about business structures and those kind of things, but not about making money. You don't learn about money or how money works or how to make money or how to manage a business. These things.
Even those who do economics and finance things, it looks like they don't understand that as well. Because mental is internal things. Problems are the one that breaks everything. Because we cannot say it's just the government. We cannot say it's the noise. So if we can understand it as a journey of growth, and just to be in that state of growth mindset, like, okay, I can make mistakes today, or I'm in this journey to learn, to grow in that. It's going to change already more in the way you are walking in that journey, because it's difficult as well to have all the tools, as we said, to have all the knowledge that you want in your entrepreneurship. The reason at the beginning might be, for example, me getting into entrepreneurship, maybe the first reason were wrong. It's because I wanted maybe the finance and money wise and things.
Freedom.
But yeah, freedom. I still want it, but more you are inside, more you learn, more you shift, more you change, more you adapt. I saw your talk last time. It was adapt.
Adjust, adapt,
yeah. I think that's the attitude to go in with.
Yeah.
You're not still going to get it fully. All the most successful entrepreneurs, even them as well, they didn't know at the beginning
but
what they were doing.
You don't know what you don't know until you know.
Yeah, you don't know what you know. But I think this is, let's talk about how then do you best prepare yourself so that you're not so mentally strained. The first thing I'd say to you as far as mindset wise is that make sure that you do today what you'll be great. Your business will thank you for tomorrow. So don't waste unnecessary time.
Yeah.
Don't waste money unnecessarily. So that basically means that you need to develop the financial mindset. Understand your own financial mindset. Also your financial emotional framework, because a lot of finances are very emotional. A lot of the financial, especially once you start seeing a little bit of progress, is when actually your emotional framework starts to come into play. What happens all of a sudden when you get that big contract, when you no longer have to worry so much about money? What do they say always? That money doesn't change people, it just simply reveals who you already are. So do you know who you are before you have money? And when you realize that who you're becoming as you start to have money, how do you manage that? How do you regulate that? How do you ensure that you rein yourself in so that you don't go too far ahead of yourself? All of a sudden, people that you had to sort of beg and speak to nicely because you needed them, now all of a sudden you've got an attitude towards them.
Yeah.
Or some of the people, some of the clients that you used to respect because you thought they were so higher than you, but now that you have a similar bank balance, you're thinking now we are on the same level. Now you start to have an attitude towards them. Like, do you understand who you're becoming as you achieve the very thing that is the very manifestation of who you are, and that gives you the best platform to express yourself in the way that makes you the genuine you? Do you understand who that person is? Because if you don't know who that person is, you're gonna make mistakes and you're gonna find yourself again having failed and back again in that mental state of pressure, and then having a failed business when you didn't have to have one. The second part is that to avoid isolation, I speak about this. Have an ecosystem of advisors. Have an ecosystem of somebody who can advise you business wise, preferably somebody that is in the same business that you are in, that has succeeded in that. Go to people that have succeeded in what you are trying to succeed in and ask them what to do. Go to those ones who have failed in what you're trying to succeed in and learn from them what not to do. Don't be having in your circle of advisors people that have nothing to do with what you want to do, and then you're asking them advice for what you're trying to achieve. They're not going to help you. Spiritual advisor for us who believe, and then to help you to handle the spiritual journey that you're gonna go through. If you're married, have somebody who can advise you on how to be married and be an entrepreneur, because there are pressures that come with being an entrepreneur that will translate into your marriage. And if you're not happy in your marriage, you're not happy in your business, and all of that adds pressure. And if you're a father, make sure that you also have somebody that can give you advice on how to balance those dynamics that you're having to juggle on a daily basis. Have somebody that becomes have people that you walk the journey with who are peers, where you can have a place of equality, where you can, because people that you are peers with create and provide a different safe space than those who are your seniors, who are your mentors, who are your coaches, who are your pastors. They provide a different safe space, and make sure that those people that you have around you are functional. So don't fall into the trap of thinking that I'm going to succeed overnight. And what I mean by that, I'm not talking about time. I'm talking about succeeding when nobody sees me. That's what I mean. Because most people are like, you know what? I went into the night and I came back in the morning. Ta-da! Look at me, I'm a multimillionaire.
There's that saying that goes on social media. It's like, don't tell anyone your next move. Build in silence and let your results speak. There's this drive for what is it called?
Sound bites.
No. I'm just thinking about this philosophy that's going around people. Anyway, it's a philosophy that drives you to loneliness, which is one of the 5 major mental issues that entrepreneurs deal with, is loneliness. So that idea that I'm not going to tell anyone, I don't need anyone, I'm going to do this on my own, and I'll show you guys.
I'm a self-made,
I'll show you. And then you'll show us how crazy you can go, because that's what will happen.
But sorry, Pastor Jabu, we can talk.
Just quickly wrapping or just latching onto that. You are absolutely right. It is so isolating. And it unfortunately it's a Hollywood concept.
Stoicism.
Stoicism. Yes, Stoicism.
This idea of I'm the warrior, I can do this alone.
It's dangerous because the whole idea of a self-made person doesn't exist. Everything we have in here is being made by someone, not us.
Yeah.
So we need those people. The fact that I'm here is that we need each other to you are constantly in need. The very reality of your human limitation is such that you need people whether you like it or not. And if you are wise and if you want to be functional, you better learn then how to work with people, how to negotiate spaces, how to negotiate deals, so that you can not only negotiate a better deal for yourself, but also you can give other people a fair deal so that you don't cheat them. You don't have to come on top every single time. Sometimes certain people that can be extremely helpful to you have to come on top so that they can give you the kind of help that you need. But if you're constantly coming on top, it means that some people who actually should be on top, that have the ability to give you that R1 million, that 10 million rand deal, are gonna be at the bottom. And if that person is losing, guess what? They're going to withdraw. They're not going to help you going further. And then it is important to really regulate your ego and understand that if in the space of entrepreneurship, you have to learn to collaborate with people, to negotiate spaces, and sometimes a certain sacrifice that you've got to make so that some people in your space to win. And in their winning, they will in turn come around and help you to win. And for example, I'm in that space right now where some people that I started the journey with 4 or 5 years ago now have those important positions, right? I was there with them. I spoke, I was helping them to win. Now they help me to win.
You win, I win, we win.
We all win.
It's a community mindset, not a... this is a topic maybe for another episode, but solopreneurship. That I think that's so dangerous. It's difficult.
But I think all those words are just, this conception of the world of I'm the one came with this word, this word. I created the solopreneur. I think those things are just sales speech, people that do to sell whatever that they have. But in reality, those people are
not doing it alone.
Just by starting by the book, they did it. How did you publish that book?
Yeah. Yeah, technically, there's no such thing as a solopreneur. So
it's just selling,
It's like a fantasy that people live in. It's like there's like this fairy tale, that I'm gonna, and I'll share a little bit about just my own experience, or I've experienced that desire to do it myself. I'm sure it's in all innate, of us, because
especially in men,
and especially when it comes to money, because you don't want to share. And then I remember one point I was like asking myself the question, why? This is before we started even Oxano. I was asking myself, why is it that I have this need to try everything alone? In terms of business, why? And then I realized it's because deep down I want the money for myself. I don't want to share. And I had to address that issue. It's like, you're selfish, man. You are selfish and prideful to think that you can do this by yourself, and that you're going to, do you think that, speaking spiritually, that your business will be blessed if God knows you are just going to consume it on yourself? That's so lustful.
Yeah. So
the idea of going solopreneur, yes, and sometimes circumstances force us into that. But like you were also saying, you cannot stay in that state where you do everything yourself, or you have to surround yourself with a community of people and be willing to share, be willing to make sacrifices, be willing to give more sometimes than what you receive in order to make room for others. And then we grow. And then talking about the economy, then communities are uplifted. It starts with a small circle, but it expands. And then eventually the whole economy is uplifted. But that when I'm keeping to myself, that's dangerous, because that's when mental illness steps in.
That's when you mentioned the important word. That's when isolation steps in, when you have the solopreneurship mindset.
Yeah.
And then, I was busy this morning actually finishing writing an article about just that aspect of loneliness. And one of the researches that I was reading that was done recently in 2022, I think it was the American Library of Health, stated that people who are isolated, especially men, they tend to have strokes more, and they have a higher levels of heart attacks. Sure. Because you're keeping everything in. You don't have an outlet. And then normally then people like that, then they would go into those unhealthy behavioral tendencies, that is alcohol, then drug addiction, whatever other addiction, because there has got to be an outlet where you are engaging with something outside of what is in your mind. And so when you have an ecosystem of great advisors, you are able to listen, reflect on your thoughts, and then correct yourself. Not only when you're speaking, but when you're talking to somebody and you're talking, you can hear yourself speaking like, my goodness, I'm speaking rubbish right now. And if
maybe that's why we love podcasting.
And if I don't stop speaking rubbish right now, these people are going to think I'm not as smart as I am. So then you sort of like start then to regulate your way you think. But then on top of that as well, you also get that feedback from other people when they start to ask you questions about, but why are you saying that? And now you got to justify. Then you got to really adjust and make sense of what you just said. And that is the power of having a great company. And so then the idea of wanting to be a solopreneur is deadly, because it is a mental trap for an entrepreneur.
Sure.
Yeah, it's very, very, very important. I think all of us, we can find ourselves somewhere. So one thing that I want just to address as well is you have to be in the space. You have to have a mastermind, and then to have an ecosystem of people that can help you. But the first step is going to be how you choose those ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
Who associate yourself with. Because you can go outside there and then want to associate yourself with people, but those people, they can be people that can kill your vision.
Mm-hmm.
And even kill that business or that idea that we have. Remember, all of us, we come in as entrepreneurs in that mastermind, in that ecosystem. We have our own issues. And some of issues can just be like, okay, this person, you think like, is great. And they start to kill you. I saw it myself with certain people that I've been in. So you choosing where to put yourself, it's also very important than even you just be outside there. Some people, being lonely is good than being with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, especially when it comes to negativity.
Yeah.
I think a negative mindset, or that people that are prone to negativity is dangerous, because they can suck the energy out.
Oh,
of you.
that kills me.
And they don't see opportunities. They don't want to take risks because they only see the danger. They look at all the negative things, and that can be a burden as well.
I think in
talk.
in the podcast, sorry, Pastor Jabu, I would like just to acknowledge my side. Just being with these two people, two of you, that played a lot in my growth.
Yeah.
You see?
No, absolutely. I mean, and thank you for that. I think it's, let's talk about exactly that, choosing people. Or actually unchoosing people. I think one of the challenges that we have is that when you start the entrepreneurial journey, you need to understand two crucial things. You need to understand the fact that you are already with a group of people that have been part of your life for some time, and that depend on you. And remember, when you're part of an ecosystem, that the ecosystem depends on you. You're part of the stability. So whether that be your wife, your children, your friends, your family, whoever it is that already exists in that, your church community, whatever. They are connected to you, and there's a certain level of dependability on you because you're part of their predictability. The way you've been living your life as a worker in whatever capacity you're in, you have impacted them, and they're connected to you in that way. You are a life source in that position as a worker, for example, going to work, coming back, earning the certain amount of money, having the kind of schedule that you're having. And the moment you go into the entrepreneurial space, everything changes. The amount of time you are going to be spending with your wife changes, to your children changes. The kind of variables of complexity that you're going to be introducing into the ecosystem changes. You are going to be changing, and the moment you start changing, you start to affect the way that they connect to you. You start to destabilize their own equilibrium. And it is only natural for a human being to want to know that this change, is it good for me? And one of the ways that you want to do this is you want to control. You want to say, hey, okay, hold on a second, man. Don't be changing so fast. You are making me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then one of the ways, unfortunately, that we do that is that I'm going to condemn it first. Most people would condemn and criticize something they don't understand first, instead of taking time to understand it. So understand that that's going to happen. Don't mislabel that. Don't call people all kinds of names because of they're trying to make sense of something that you, by the way, let's be fair, how long have you been thinking about becoming an entrepreneur? I mean, you've been at that thing for how many years? It's been messing around with your mind. So you've had the time to prepare to become an entrepreneur, and then you want us to now all of a sudden fall in line so quickly.
What was
It's not right.
I want to pivot into that, and then we'll go from there. But tell us about your own experience, because I know, being close to you, that is something that you experienced very brutally, if I can put it that way. The misunderstanding of people, especially when you are going from being a senior pastor in a church, full-time in the ministry, to having to go into the entrepreneurial world as well. And that misunderstanding, or just how can you tell us about that experience a little bit, and how it affected you in your mental wellness, and then maybe you can tell us how you dealt with it as well.
I mean, I can tell you one thing, that there was a point where I was very angry. I was frustrated and I was angry and I was mad at everyone. I was really just bitter, and I definitely was saying some things in my own private time that I should not even say as a pastor. But I remember there was a point where I said to myself, you know what? It was almost like the as a Christian, the Spirit was speaking to me and saying to me, okay, hold on a second, but these people love you, right? Other than this frustrating situation right now, there is a long evidence of how much they love you and how they've been there for you. So clearly, there's a struggle that's going on here.
Yeah.
So understand the struggle, and I had to sit down and think about it. That as a pastor, I was a crucial part of the spiritual harmony, of the spiritual certainty, of that predictability. It's not only the fact that I've gone through what I've gone through, but also that I've had to make certain changes practically that will then also impact the way that they relate to me, the way that they now have to adjust to see me, and then that confusion in the process of transitioning from this person used to be our pastor full-time in the church in this way, now they're not anymore. And then of course there's you and Pastor Katani that took over the church. How do we relate to these new people? But now how does he fit into the whole picture? But also, of course, some of the mentalities that we have in the church around business and all of that, but that's a whole different story altogether.
Yeah,
but
we're going to do a podcast about that one day, especially pastors in business.
Oh man,
like a topic: is it okay for a pastor to have a business? And we're going to do that.
I think it'll be great.
Yeah,
and the thing is understanding that they, as much as I was struggling to transition, they too were struggling to transition. So I needed to give myself grace. I needed to give them grace. And I needed to be patient. And I remember the moment I decided to do that, I called all the people that were important to me. And then, we had the conversation. We had the conversation multiple times. I had conversations multiple times, and I allowed people to ask me questions. So what does it mean now? Where are you going? What are you trying to do? And I answered them, and I availed myself to answer those questions to the best of my understanding at the time, so that they too can understand what I am doing, and they can make a choice as to whether or not they stick around within my ecosystem as a support structure, or make adjustments in terms of the nature of the relationship, seeing that certain variables in the dynamics in the relationships have changed. And I needed to accept that. So some relationships are going to change so fundamentally that they are probably not going to be the same, and probably the closeness and the intimacy that we felt within a different ecosystem when I was not as a pastor will not be there. And I needed to mourn. I needed to grieve the loss of some very important relationships. And I needed to do that to allow then for the space for the new relationships. And I had struggles with the new relationships. The previous relationships, I knew what the boundaries were. I knew what the rules of engagement were. I knew who I was in the ecosystem as far as my position of hierarchy, of influence, of contribution, and how everybody related to me. But now in this particular place, I'm coming in as a new person that is learning something new. I'm coming in at the bottom. I'm coming in as literally a virgin in a sense. And I'm having to depend on these people that I don't know to teach me and to learn from them, whether they want to teach me or not. But I needed to orient my mind to become a learner and to identify what I'm learning and to begin to build my knowledge structure. And then along the way, learning the type of relational boundaries that exist within the entrepreneurial space, in a transactional space. You know, in a space where competency literally is the measure of whether or not people are going to connect with you or not, where credibility is so crucial for your success. And I need to understand that I need to understand those components. It's for me to understand, and it's not for other people to make space for me.
Yeah, business is not unconditional love.
Pastor Jabu, I have a question. Just based on what you just explained. You change, but you still want to fit in with the people that you have been with them already. You call them, you try to have a conversation, say, okay, I'm not the same person. Now I'm changing. And then if you have questions about what I want to do, you can ask those questions and you try your best to answer all those questions. But some people still don't understand, still stuck in the same position. They don't want to acknowledge the change, the position that's because at the end of the day, it's still your life.
Yeah.
You are living that life. If you're not able to pay your bills, no one is going to pay it for you. So you still have to go with your life. So what do you do in that position?
It's okay for people to misunderstand.
Should you cut?
No. There's no need for me to cut anybody. It's okay for people to not understand what I'm doing the first time. Maybe some people it takes them time. And I'm always available for a relationship with anyone that wants to have a relationship with me. But I am definitely not going to change and mold myself so much so that the person can feel comfortable around me at my own expense, at the expense of my own growth, at the expense of what I believe I'm called to do. Now, I will definitely create as much of a safe space as I possibly can for people, and I try to do that all the time. But it's only to the extent that it serves my call. It's only to the extent that it serves what I believe is my responsibility towards them, towards me, towards God, and towards the people that I care about. Do you know what I mean? It's okay for people to misunderstand. Some people along the way, certain things click. What you don't want to do is to be mislabeling. People struggle with change for being toxic and being negative and not being criticizing because of your own emotional energy that is produced when you feel, when you're under pressure, when you feel like you're being questioned. One of my struggles was I don't like being questioned.
Sure.
I don't like being questioned. And the moment I hear a question, even if it's an innocent question, it was almost like there's something in the back of my head that's just like, you know, and I feel like I'm being questioned. And I had to do the same thing that you've done. Like, why the heck in the world do I not like being questioned? Like a child is asking me a question, they're not being, because they don't know and they need me to fill in the gaps in their knowledge. And I am the adult that should know better. Why do I have an attitude when a child asks me a question? But also realize that I even have an attitude when adults are asking me a question. So I needed to make certain mental adjustments in the process and understand that it's okay for people to misunderstand. It's okay for them to struggle with what I'm doing. But it's okay for me to understand that I need to move on. I need to keep on going. But I'm not one of those guys that's gonna cut anybody off. No, I don't. There's no need for that. I think it's petty.
So maybe in your closing remarks, can you just, for all the listeners or the watchers, what are some of the tips you would give in terms of mental health, especially, well, in entrepreneurship, but just maybe 5 things that very briefly that people can apply now in order to improve their mental condition or to take care of it. And then after that, also just share where people can connect with you, maybe if they want some more help or have questions, or just want to connect with you, where they can do that. So thank you.
The first thing is that acknowledge that struggle is part of life. It's nothing more than the fact that it's part of the environment. And so the second thing is that acknowledge your own human limitations. That because of the actual reality of your human limitations, whether it be your ability to know, your ability to work, the fact that you get tired, the fact that you get confused, all of those terminologies, they point to the fact that you need help. And then therefore it's okay to need help. So the third thing then is that it's okay then to accept that you need help, right? And then if you're asking for help, interrogate your meanings. What meaning have you attached to needing help? Do you think that needing help makes you weak, makes you less? Are you afraid of being taken advantage of? Are you afraid of being looked down as being shamed? Interrogate your meaning. What meanings have you attached to needing help? Because needing help is an undeniable and an unnegotiable aspect of being a human being who's got limited frame. Right? The fourth thing is that it is important to learn to reflect, be reflective, and reflecting on your own time in terms of thinking about what you're thinking about and seeing whether or not it's valid and measuring that up against the outcomes in your own life. And then, as I've said, having an ecosystem where you can reflect objectively, and then it can help you to reorient your thoughts so that you can be objective. So have people that you can trust, that you can share ideas with, and they will not be afraid to say to you, okay, that's a bit of a wonky idea. What do you mean by that? And they can ask you some hard questions, and then you can take the questions from them and not become defensive and attacking. And then the last thing I would say, look, you need to work on your mindsets. And then this is an non-negotiable. You need to constantly interrogate what informs the way you think about whatever you're thinking about. Let's talk about the framework of you as an entrepreneur. There is yourself, there's the problem that you're solving, the products that you're coming about, that you are building to sell to clients, and then there are your clients. And then there's an environment within which that the business is operating, which includes the social conditions plus the legislation. Now, yourself, what are you doing to prepare yourself? How much do you understand about your clients? How much do you understand about your environment? How are you using that to come up with a strategy that's going to help your business to progress? And in terms of legislative framework, do you understand what the governing laws are? And let's talk about it as far as environment. How prepared are you with the revolution of AI? How are you integrating AI to improve your business efficiencies, to minimize the cost that you're spending, and actually to maximize your ability to generate income? I mean, there's so much more that can be said about that, but I think for me that's very crucial. It's yourself. Acknowledge struggle. Don't mislabel it. Acknowledge your own limitations. Don't mislabel them. Skill yourself up, as I've said, as far as your what did I say? What was the third thing?
It's okay to need help.
It's okay to need help. Ask for help if you need help. Work on your mindset. Work on your mindsets and make sure that you're constantly sharpening your mindset so that you can make high quality decisions. And as I've said again, understand your environment, understand the people that you're working with, understand your clients. And of course, I'm online. Most social media handles at Jabu Zwane Talks, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn. If you just search for Jabu Zwane mindset, there's a lot now. There's a lot. I mean, I've been all over the place recently.
You're busy.
So it wouldn't be trouble. Or jabuzwane.com, that's going to be my website.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. It was definitely a very valuable session. I feel like we could just keep talking.
Yes. Even now, I was like, I want to ask this question.
Yeah, there's so like we always say, there definitely will be a return invite so that we can continue the discussions, and we will talk about pastors in business as well. I think that's an important discussion because it frames many other issues that people have with certain roles and responsibilities and so on. But yeah, thank you so much. This was a really, I think, a very valuable talk. Christian, from your side, any last closing comments? And then I'll close us off.
I'll talk as an entrepreneur. I think entrepreneur, we have to do some basic, as we were talking about mental well-being. We have to exercise. We have to go to gym. That personally helps me a lot. If like that discipline, even mentally, it helps me a lot, and then I feel it when I don't. The eating, it's very important as well. I'm learning a lot now, even with Pastor Jabu these days, that he's around with it's some food and things, like some stuff or some stuff are just a little bit, they might sound like it's not important, but once you start to do it, you can see a very big change. And also know when to stop.
Yeah.
Because the most important is you to come back tomorrow to work, because it's a journey. It's not like you are working for a company where they can chase you away or they can tell you no, you are no. But it's a journey. Take it as a journey. Know when to stop, so that you can be with your family, you can be with your kids and even friends. It's not all work, entrepreneur. Oh, nah, I'm an entrepreneur even when you're sleeping. I'm saying it because sometimes it's me. No, I'm an entrepreneur even when I'm sleeping. I'm still working. So knowing the breaks, it's very important as well.
Just go to bed, man. Like sometimes you just have to go. I've learned to listen to my body. Well, first listen to the spirit, but to listen to your body. When your body says I'm tired, go to bed. Like last night I was working, I think maybe until 10:30, which is late for me because I don't work at night and I normally work in the mornings. But it was something I knew I'm tired. I'm not going to be able to wake up tomorrow morning early, so let me just push. But then I finished one client proposal and I was like, you know what, I'm done. I'm not going to push anymore. And then go and sleep. Get enough sleep. The sleep experts will tell you sleep is vital for your mental health. And I know earlier this year when we didn't sleep for 2 days straight, man, I couldn't think properly. Like, it's horror. You can't make decisions. You're very confused. You're overwhelmed. The smallest things just overwhelm you. But yeah, anyway, thank you so much, Christian. Thank you for your closing remarks. Thank you to everyone who listened today. We hope that you really enjoyed this conversation and this episode. And please remember to subscribe to our podcast, whether you're listening from YouTube or any of the podcast distributors, whether you're going to Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcast, which is closing down next year, Amazon, wherever you can find us. But please like and share, and maybe send this to somebody that needs some advice with regards to their mental health, not just in business, but in general. I think there's a lot that we can apply in every area of our lives. Thank you for listening, and until the next episode, goodbye.